As you know, we have this Westmoor Country Club alumni group chat, right? And sometimes it gets off the rails a little bit, but a lot of times it's there to kind of, just keep people abreast of what's going on. One of the individuals in this group chat, I'll keep his information personal for right now, although I think you probably may know this. He and his wife are buying a home. It's their first home. Like that's super cool. He texted me and I'm looking at the Zillow posting and like I'm giving him grief about this downstairs basement bar they're going to have that I'm going to go have a cocktail in one day, and yet they're going to be it's a playroom for their future children. Like that kind of stuff I love. Get the golf stuff, right? Like that's important to me. It means that these individuals who have been with our team at Westmore, maybe we've influenced them just a touch to be a husband, to be a father, to be a homeowner, to be in the community, right?
Welcome to the Approach Podcast. I'm Mike Quinlan, and today I get the pleasure of speaking to Vince Pulizzano, the head golf professional at Westmoor Country Club. Welcome, Vince.
Thank you very much for having me, Mike. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Um, to get this thing rolling, let's start where everybody wants, like people want this information. How does it feel to be the alumni of the Division II football world champions?
Go dogs. Yeah, I'll tell you this. Ferris State University, or so I was told when attending there, had a very rich football tradition. I don't know the stats, but I can't imagine they won more than one or two games in the 4 years I was at Ferris State. So I missed all that. But yeah, it's kind of fun, right? Like, never went to one of these Big Ten schools or a school that's going to be in the college football playoffs now, and so never will have that experience as not only an alumni of a university but also a current student when I was in school. But yeah, it's kind of fun every now and then to look and say, "Hey, go Dogs! They won another national championship."
You ever consider going and trying to take in some of that atmosphere? Like just make a little trip of it and say, you know what, I
Yeah,
just got to give it a
I
try.
I know, right? No, I haven't. It hasn't been top of mind. I probably should. I have not been back to Ferris State University. Oh my God, in a very, very long time. Just for no other reason that, it's kind of not easy to get to in the grand scheme of things. It's 4 hours away. I know that doesn't sound terrible, but the fall is active for us here at Westmore Country Club. If I'm going to slip away for a day or two, it's probably going to be for family or maybe a member golf trip, rather than going to a Ferris State football game. But yeah, maybe I'll put that on the list for next year. We're actually taking a member trip up to Northern Michigan. Maybe I can try to extend the trip or something like that if
There
the
you go.
stars align. We'll see. But yeah, it's kind of fun.
Good. All right. Well, outside of going to Ferris State University, maybe tell the people a little bit more about your background and what you've done since your graduation from Ferris State.
Yeah. So first of all, I did not grow up in a golf family. I kind of stumbled into the professional golf management program at Ferris State University. Frankly, the first semester or two, it was a pretty big culture shock. I wasn't really excited about it. I grew up in a suburb of Chicago called Skokie, which is pretty urban, and going to Mecosta County, Michigan, which has probably no more than four stoplights to go to a university called Ferris State, was odd. But once I got rolling into the program and my internships and all of that, I really validated kind of what I wanted to do with my life, and so I was lucky that way. And I graduated from Ferris State. I was very fortunate to receive an opportunity to work at Conway Farms Golf Club in Lake Forest, Illinois, as an assistant golf professional. I was there for 5 years. 1 year as kind of the seasonal guy, right out of college and all that. One of my fellow assistant professionals at the time, Nick Papadakis, secured a head professional job at a really cool club called Old Elm. I was asked to move into the year-round senior assistant title and role. And I was there for 4 years in that role, so 5 years total at Conway, and then pulled the wool over the folks at Hamilton Farm Golf Club in Gladstone, New Jersey. to secure the head professional position there, working for the director of golf, Matt Freitag, and that team. It was a bridge job. Kind of knew we weren't going to be there forever. Loved New Jersey. It was actually a lot better than we thought it would be. Welcomed our first child there. Central Jersey is incredible. But it was time to come back to the Midwest. I'm from Chicago, my wife's from Michigan. Strong ties back to the Midwest, and failed at a couple of opportunities on the North Shore of Chicago, came runner up to a couple, and then the club that I'm at now, Westmoor Country Club, gave me a call and asked me to be their fifth golf professional. And I've been here now for 11 full years. Hard to believe.
It's great. Um,
Yeah,
Full disclosure, I worked there for a year with you.
I
Um,
remember it. It was great.
yeah, that was great actually. I took a lot of what you taught, um, and I've used it ever since. But with that, you've won a bunch of awards too that you kind of glanced over those 11 years at Westmore. Um, and most recently, last year, you won the Wisconsin PGA Professional of the Year award. Like out of all the awards that you have won, because you have the merchandiser, Bill Strasbaugh, and all the other ones, where does that one rank, and which one do you actually put above? Is that
Well, it's funny. The way I think of it is this: like I don't do what I do for awards or for plaques. Like they just kind of happen, which is fun, right? It's great to be recognized by your peers, and it's awesome when you get those nomination forms come your way, and filling those out and giving it your all, and everything like that. So all that's a lot of fun, right? But it's not why I wake up every day. It's not on my goals for the next year or anything like that. I will say though, golf professional of the year is pretty special. I've always viewed myself operationally as like a generalist. I'm never going to be the best merchandiser, but I can do it pretty well. I'm never going to be the best, instructor, but I can give a decent golf lesson. I'm never going to be the best tournament operator, but I can run a pretty good tournament. And I think for a club like ours at Westmore, it's important, right? Like we're not a club that has specialists all over the place, and it's like, oh well, I want to get my clubs regripped. Well, we've got the club regripping specialist, or this person, or the tournament specialist, right? So, um, winning golf professional year was really fun because I think in order to achieve that, you have to be pretty good at kind of everything, right? You have to be able to volunteer your time and be a mentor and give back, and obviously run a nice operation, whether it's private or public, and give back to the Wisconsin PGA, which I feel I do all those reasonably well. So that was probably the most important one, right? Pretty easy to say because it is kind of like the marquee award, but that's the one. And Bill Strasbaugh mentoring, which I've been lucky to be awarded a couple of times. Those two are kind of the biggie ones for me, for sure.
yeah? Yeah, and that's why I was kind of interested too, because when I worked for you, I found that environment and the culture and everything was a very inspiring kind of place to be. It's kind of place where you want to go to work the next day. And those aren't everywhere for sure.
Sure.
What do you think it is that create a more inspiring golf pro? And usually I would imagine that this is a tough question to answer because people who are really inspiring probably don't believe that they are very inspiring, but it's something, like how does that work for you? What's your
Yeah.
ethics there?
Well, I think it all stems from the pros I've worked for and with prior to Westmore, where I was not the leader of the operation. Jeff Morey at Conway Farms, Tom Wildenhouse at Old Florida Golf Club, Matt Freitag at Hamilton Farm. He's no longer there. He's now running Robert Trent Jones Golf Club that just had the Solheim Cup this past fall. Those individuals I was really lucky to work for because and with because it was all about the team, right? It was all about giving back to the team members. It was kind of almost like an us against the world mentality. You know, it's not, this isn't sports, like it's not the NFL playoffs, it's not that, but sometimes it kind of is, right? Because
Hmm.
you can feel like you're doing a great job for the membership or the operation, whatever, and then you get this nasty email from someone, and it's like, really, like I've been doing so many great things and all that, and there's two ways to go from there, right? It's like, okay, for me as a boss, do I, you know, go to Mike Quinlan and say, well, why did you do that? And be critical, and we've got to do this better. Or sometimes it's just like, um, no, like screw that guy. Like, no, we're doing a great job here, and yeah, maybe something was wrong and he viewed it incorrectly. But no, like it's our team, and we're going to keep validating what we do here, and we're going to keep kicking butt and taking names, and sometimes that us against the world mentality, which I think we kind of have here. Again, it's not really like that way because we're working at a private country club, but yeah, it's I think that galvanizes the team, especially when it's August and we've all been working a million hours and minimal time away from the family, and to have this culture to where people feel like they want to come to work. They don't mind getting here early. They don't mind sticking around to give a late afternoon golf lesson or wait till Mr. X gets off the golf course to make sure he gets his clubs regripped the next day or whatever, right? Like I think if it's all about tasks, and I think if it's all about what are you doing and why are you doing it, and let's be better all the time, and let's continually, scrutinize every decision. I think that's just the wrong way to do it. And so it's kind of fun. I think that working here is kind of fun, and I think we do have a decent culture, and it's one that we take great pride in. And yeah, I think sometimes this us against the world mentality is okay.
Yeah, that is a lot of fun. And it does turn into like this sport kind of culture where it is team oriented and people stick up for each other. Um, and that's really galvanizing, like you said, and it creates these bonds. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
And not to interrupt, but I think bond is a great word, right? Because like if I don't, for example, when you came into our team, and Jake Van Fleet came that same year, we had lost two assistant professionals to had professional roles, right? And so bringing two newbies in was going to be weird, right? And finding a way to make everybody click so that way there was never this like, well, I'm going to work harder so I can show Vince that I'm better than this guy or this person or whatever. Like, that's just not the way we do things, right? We don't have titles here. Like, everybody is an assistant golf professional. Whether you're working year one or year 97, whether you're making 100 grand a year or $10,000 a year, it doesn't matter. You're an assistant golf professional. I am not the director of golf. I'm the head golf professional, although you've heard me say it 100 times. I'm just one of the team members, right? It's not about me and my assistants. It's about us and we and team always.
so you do have an impact on your assistants, and so many of them have moved on. We have people in California and people down in Florida, all these people that have worked for you and moved on, and they tend to find out like what they really like as well. Are there times when you're working with these guys that you've seen that click in them where they all of a sudden they see that, or you've noticed them like all of a sudden take on this role and become like their person almost? Have you noticed that? And how does that feel?
It's really cool, right? So first of all, I'll tell you two quick stories about that. I get more out of watching the development of our team, current and past. As you know, we have this Westmoor Country Club alumni group chat, right? And sometimes it gets off the rails a little bit, but a lot of times it's there to kind of, just keep people abreast of what's going on. One of the individuals, in this group chat, I'll keep his information personal for right now, although I think you probably may know this. He and his wife are buying a home. It's their first home. Like that's super cool. Yeah, he texted me and I'm looking at the Zillow posting and like I'm giving him grief about this downstairs basement bar they're gonna have that I'm gonna go have a cocktail in one day and yet they're gonna be it's a playroom for their future children. Like that kind of stuff I love. Forget the golf stuff, right? Like that's important to me. It means that these individuals who have been with our team at Westmore maybe we've influenced them just a touch to be a husband, to be a father, to be a homeowner, to be in the community, right? You know, this is an individual who could have gone to another section, another state, another something else, and he and his wife decided to settle here and make roots here, right? And they're now doing so, buying a home. And I think that's really cool. Like I love that. You know, when it comes to seeing others, so probably one individual who would come to mind would be James Anderson. You know, James is currently the head golf professional of the Stanford University Golf Course in Palo Alto, California. Um, Last year, technically this year, January of 2023 at the PGA Merchandise Show, James brought his team from Stanford and the worlds collided. The Westmore team current and the Stanford team current collided. And the entire time that I was there with them for those handful of hours, it's like all the stuff James was doing with his team. You know, the dinner, maybe a drink or two, the floor on the show, like, you know, staying for a couple of days, playing some golf, like doing all that stuff. You know, that's stuff that we do, right? With our group here, whoever's working within our operation at the time. And to see James kind of doing what we do was really cool because like yeah that's the in my opinion like that's how you do the PGA show, right? And it was almost like boy that was me, right? 10 years ago or however much younger James is than me. And that was really fun, right? To kind of just see that and to see I've actually went to his operation in the fall and saw Stanford and saw all that they do and all that he's responsible for, and just getting that behind the scenes tour was really cool and validating for me because he's one of our team members, always will be, and someone that we all work together with, and someone we'll always have in our pocket.
That's awesome. That I bet that is like it's like a dad, right? It's like
Yeah,
being a
right?
dad, and you see like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
He's, you know, you
I mean, it's funny. I kept telling him like, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Like this
right?
is great. Yeah, I
Exactly.
kind of feel like a dad, right?
Yeah, that's your way of getting a boy. So the boy you never
Well, yeah,
got.
you're right. I mean, I think that's it. You, like me, don't have boys, right? You've got girls. And although we do have one female on kind of our Westmore staff, right? Molly Braid, who's incredible. And she'll always be a part of our alumni group or forever. Yeah, it's a bunch of boys, right? And yeah, I'm kind of like the dad.
Yeah, it's kind of fun that way.
It
Um,
is.
and that also talks to culture, right? So you've created a culture that was so good that James Anderson is like, you know what? I have to take some of this with me,
Sure.
right? How do you create that culture? What kind of things are you doing to kind of create this culture that obviously is
So, first things first, when time comes to hire an assistant golf professional. I don't really care about what their resume says in terms of how much experience they've had. I don't really care about like, you know, I've been a PGA member for X years or I've done this or I've won assistant of the year or whatever. Like all that's great, but I want people who are free thinkers. I want people who care about people. Like that's kind of like it. If you can't care about a person and that person being your customer, our member, your fellow team member, it's a non-negotiable. You're kind of gone right away if you're selfish, right? So you've got to care about people, selfless, right? You've got to be a free thinker, and you have to be able to communicate both to the member and to your team, and that communication is not always the same, right? You've been in the back office here, Mike, at Westmore. Um, we tend to cuss a couple of times a minute. We kind of, it's a little more garage shop floor chat as opposed to prim and proper buttoned up chat in front of the membership, but it's also kind of like our release, right? But you have to be able to kind of balance that, right? Because ultimately, when you're in golf, especially if you're at a private country club, I have to go, and our team has to go from chatting with and providing a very high level experience to somebody who may be the chairman of the board of a Fortune 500 company to a 13-year-old caddy who has no idea what golf is and everything in between. And the way you communicate to those people is differently, right? If I've got this chairman of the board of a Fortune 500 company, I have to communicate in a different way than I do to this 13-year-old caddy or Mike Quinlan, our teammate, right? Because they're expecting different things. Mike, in this example, is looking for leadership and guidance and education and like, how do I get this task accomplished and what are the best practices and whatever. The chairman is looking for none of the minutia. He just wants a really good experience because he's got guests in town from wherever. And the 13-year-old caddy has no understanding about what life is, no less a country club, and how his role, although he doesn't view it as much, is uber impactful to the experience of this Fortune 500 chairman, right? So if our team can't communicate, if we can't talk to one another, if we can't communicate effectively to all of these different levels within the operation, you're going to fail, unfortunately, in our operation. And that's number one, what I'm looking for, the ability to communicate. How does that lead to culture? I think it just happens organically. Like I talked about us against the world. I talked about, different ways of chatting to people and finding different ways to get out of them what they want. The chairman, right? He may be very direct and say, I need this tea time and this whatever. Okay, fine, we'll take care of it. Or maybe there's Mike Quinlan, who's an assistant professional who wants the world, and we can't accomplish it right away, but we have to kind of build it up. I don't know if that's really the perfect answer, but I think it just all comes down to communication, listening to whether your customer, this chairman in this example, Mike Quinlan, the assistant golf professional, or this caddy. If you listen to them long enough, they'll tell you what they want, right? Sometimes that conversation takes a long time. Sometimes that conversation takes 10 seconds. But you just have to listen as a leader, and then you have to find ways to impact that person, coworker, member, customer, positively to make everybody happy.
Yeah, I agree 100%. When I was parking cars for a living, I would give customer service training. And like one of the big aspects of it is regardless of tone of voice, whatever they're saying to you, if they're screaming at you or speaking to you, likely there's a question behind there. And if you can answer that question, all that screaming, those headaches, whatever it might be, those go away pretty quickly. And those people, the whole attitude changes.
No doubt.
So I think communication, and one of the biggest parts of communication is the listening to it. Um,
Yeah, the other thing with that too is, we're in what we do every day at the club at Westmoor is we're stuck in the weeds on a lot of stuff, right? And we tend to forget sometimes that our customers, our members, they're coming to us to escape. They don't know that it took 97 meetings and vendor buying strategies and interviews and training and whatever to create a product for them to experience, right? So we live it every day, they don't. And so they don't care to know that, this item that they ordered is back ordered. Like they don't care why. It doesn't matter that the FedEx truck in California toppled over and some individual stole all the goods out of there and you're trying to figure it all out. Like they just want to know where their club is, right? Which is refreshing to know because we're trying to get that to them. But tailoring your messaging to get to the answer for them is really critical. They don't want to know all the how the sausage is made. They just want to like eat the Italian sausage, right? And it's really good. And that's what we're trying to do. Like we've got the product is really good. Unless they're on the board or the golf committee or whatever, they don't need to know about all this other stuff. And that's why we shut the door and we hash it out and we figure it out and whatever to create a response to get to the customer who's our member.
Yes, absolutely. So with the culture and the whole idea of, trying to keep things similar, it's difficult because everything is changing all the time, right? So the people who are joining the clubs, people who are golfing nowadays, like it's so much different than when we were thinking about golf, what golf was like prior to Tiger Woods even. It was like the rich people only, and it was, the people who were working in the business looked a certain way, and everything is changing now. How do you adapt with those times, and how do you kind of move along with it?
Yeah. You've got to, first of all, at a private country club, right? So Westmore's going to celebrate their centennial next year, 1925 to 2025. It'll be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, as I mentioned before, I'm golf professional number five, and I only bring that up because the four before me were all at their helm for a pretty long period of time, right? We're not a turnstile type club when it comes to that, which is great. So yeah, you have to ride the wave. You have to try to get ahead of the curve. I've been fighting the fight for a long time with our club and our golf committee and all that and our membership about trying to free up the calendar and to try to provide more open play. It sounds pretty easy. It's like, well, hey, members want to play golf, let them. Well, sometimes that's difficult because you have tradition. You have events that have been going on for a long time, especially when you're a club like Westmore that's been around for 100 years. And so when you have an event that may have a history of say 80 years, but yet the event is not what the current membership wants, how do you find a way to tactfully remove, modify, kick out that event when those who are really leading the club are probably those who have a really keen eye on history, right? Like we have had roughly 50 new member families join since COVID, right? Um, that's a lot. All of those individuals who have joined, they have done something, two things that are different. Thing number one, they've replaced a family that had been here prior, right? So it's not like we were short on membership ever. We've always been pretty full and a wait list and all that stuff. So those 50 that have come in are replacing 50 generational members, if you want to think of it that way, folks who have been here for a long time. So what the new folks want is not necessarily what the old folks had or wanted. And how do you communicate to my chairman, president, general manager, whoever it may be, like, look, we've got to look at what these folks want because they're the future. Their wants, needs, and desires are vastly different than those who have been a member since 1975. Those who've been a member since 1975 probably are more keen on tradition, whereas those who've been a member since 2024, excuse me, 2024, they are probably just want access to the golf course. They're working from their iPad in the men's locker room from 9 to 10. They're going to go play 9 holes of golf. They're going to come back, grab lunch, and then meet with other friends of theirs and play golf at 1 o'clock until dark, right? Like they're not necessarily looking to play in the XYZ golf tournament because they've marked their calendar for that event for 9 months. That's not their thing. They just want access, right? So for us, it's balancing tradition and what the newer member wants and what are their needs. And as a result, some of our events have grown in popularity. Some have dropped off. It's up to me and our team to figure out how do we balance all that, especially when the demands in the industry have changed.
So with that, so career longevity or being at one club for a while, changes in what it like what a club is these days compared to what it was, 50 years ago. In order to stay on that wave that you spoke about, what kind of things are you studying, reading, looking into? What kind of things are drawing your attention to help you stay with it?
Yeah, I think it's very easy for boards. And by the way, I assume everyone realizes Westmoor Country Club is a private club. I'm just kind of saying that as if everyone knows, but maybe they don't. We have a membership, we have a board. The board ultimately runs the club, right? Although we have layers, right? We've got a golf professional, a general manager, and a chef. Ultimately, the board and kind of voting and bylaws that kind of runs the club, right? Um, so what those boards sometimes forget, and what members sometimes forget, is that we're like any other business, we're in competition with others, right? We're kind of fortunate in that where we're located geographically, we don't have many clubs in close proximity. Blue Mound is right down the road, although Blue Mound is a little different. They don't have a pool. They're not necessarily viewed as a family club like we are, because we've got, tennis and pool and all that fun stuff. So there's distinction and separation there. And then I guess the next closest would be like the Legend clubs out west, but they're a little different as well because of kind of their makeup and how all that works. But ultimately, we're competing against all of these clubs. When a family is thinking about joining a club, why are they going to choose Westmore? How do we separate ourselves from the competition? How do we create distinction, right? How do we, as a club, create this product without advertising, without marketing, right? Like you can't do that
Hmm.
when you're a private club. So that way people come to us and want to stay with us in our culture, club culture and our traditions and what we do for years and years and years. I heard one time, a long time ago, from a gentleman named Bill Heald, a longtime golf professional. He's now passed on, Illinois PGA. He said that your biggest goal as a operator at a country club is to figure out how to extend the average life expectancy of a member. And he did not mean mortality. He meant how long will they be at the club? Because if your average member is at the club, say 10 years, right, and they leave for whatever reason, death, relocation, whatever, how do you get 11 years out of them? Because that one extra year is more dues. That extra year is more revenue in the golf shop, more revenue in the restaurant, right? How do you like do that? And I think that's pretty interesting, and it's something we've always tried to do here, like kind of find ways so that way when Mr. X gets the call from his bank to relocate to San Francisco, how can Westmore be a fraction of his decision before leaving Wisconsin and moving out west? Can we grab on to him and his family and say, hey, if you leave, you're going to leave this, right? This community, this club, this culture. And if we can do that, I think we're doing some pretty cool things.
So when you have those ideas and you're kind of coming up with those ideas, you
Yeah.
brought up a book, Create Distinction
Yep.
by Scott McKay.
Yep.
I read that book, very good book. Um, and I like the fact that when I was working at like Watertown or even Wisconsin Club, like you have to look outside the box. Like if you just stay inside this golf thing all day long, you are going to get lost, right?
100%.
So
There, yeah,
you need to venture outside and get your ideas from different places. Like as crazy as that sounds, but like what are other stores doing in the area that
correct.
I can
Yes.
do, right? So it's not about golf all day,
Yeah.
all the time, if you're going to
Yep.
really advance and come along with that wave.
Yeah, I'm looking at
So,
like I've got this little bookshelf in my office, and I'm looking at all the books I have up there. And there are three distinct genres. It's either golf architecture, it's instruction, which I don't teach a whole heck of a lot, but I still got some really cool stuff up there. And then the rest are all business books, and they're not golf industry business books.
Hmm.
It's Seth Godin I'm looking at right here. There's a book called Essentialism by Matt McKeon, which is kind of a little bit too much. I don't think we can do it in our line of work. But yeah, they're not golf business books, right? Because it's easy to get stuck in the minutia of, well, we're a private country club and we've got this membership and they're our customers and whatever. It's like you're right, like they are, but there's so much to be learned from the power of saying no. You know, Seth Godin is the king of that. If you look at him, his stuff, it's like
Hmm.
identifying what your business does really well. Make sure that whatever that is, in our case, golf and the golf experience, is always first class. And only take on new stuff if you think that it will really, truly impact your business in a positive way, not in terms of money necessarily, but in terms of the culture, right? And if you're not, like Seth Godin's big thing was like the whole ice cream story. I think you've heard me say this 100 times,
Hmm.
but he's like, if I had an ice cream shop and chocolate wasn't selling, I just wouldn't have chocolate. And if someone comes in and says, "Where's your chocolate ice cream?" and I would say, "I don't have any," and if he says, "Well, that's ridiculous," and he leaves, so what? Like, it doesn't matter because
Hmm.
chocolate wasn't selling and it's better for your business to go all vanilla or whatever, right?
Yep.
Those kind of lessons are uber critical for what we do.
Yeah, his idea of the smallest viable audience is really such a good idea with that too, because if you get your customers, and your customers are the people that you spoke about earlier who aren't going to leave, and when they do have to leave, or if they do leave, they're forced out
Correct.
some way, right? Like you said, passing away or relocation or something like that. But those are also the people who are, they are your marketing engine more than anything as well. So yeah, Seth Godin has a lot of really good things of what he's doing. And I enjoy reading all of his books and um,
Yeah, the other thing I will say for us, geographically speaking, we're in Brookfield. Brookfield is a pretty small town. Brookfield, Elm Grove, everyone knows everybody, right? And so if any one of our team members, if myself, if there's a bad experience out there, whether it's with the staff member, the club, the whole thing, word gets around pretty quickly. And so
yeah,
that could be negative, but it could also be positive. Like, hey, this home, right, in this community went up for sale. A family moved in from Connecticut. Their neighbors pop over right away. Hey, are you golfers? You got to join Westmoor Country Club. Like
yeah,
that's the kind of stuff that we need.
yep. Um, and we'll just start wrapping up a little bit here. But what kind of advice would you give to other golf professionals to build their careers, and then if they're going to move into creating a lasting legacy, what do they have to do?
Well, first of all, if they enter any sort of role or job seeking legacy or seeking awards, they're going to fail. Like all that happens, right? They need to understand that they're growing. They need to understand they don't know everything. They need to be continually seeking industry contacts nationally, even if they have no desire to be outside of the state of Wisconsin, as an example, or whatever. They have to continually seek new ideas from others from around the country, both in your demographic, right? Like a private country club. But I get ideas from folks who are at public golf courses. I grab ideas from folks who are instructors regarding business or whatever, right? They have to understand that the members that they work with are all very successful, and you can learn a lot by listening to what your members have to say about their business, their life, what they do, and how they got to where they are. And again, I'm talking from a private country club aspect. That goes for public as well. If someone's paying $400 for a round of golf with a golf cart or whatever, like at Whistling Straits or whatever the going rate is, those people probably have some disposable income, which means they're pretty successful at what they do. Like, listen to them too, right? Um, so I think listening and seeking knowledge are always critical. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to meet people. I attend a million conferences nationally every year, and I've got detailed notes that I keep on my iPad or my phone, whatever, and I have them forever. I look back at them all the time. And they're pretty funny, actually. So I think that's that. I think also, from the work aspect, I think that we're different now. Mike, you and I are of a certain age where when we grew up in golf, the words day off and work-life balance were not in the dictionary.
Hmm.
And now they are. And so as leaders, I have to understand that how do I can't just tell assistant X work sun up to sundown every single day and you'll get better, right? So if you're now an assistant professional and you want to get into the work or into the golf industry, excuse me, how will your boss, your mentor, how will they allow you to have that balance? That's all the thing these days, while still also finding time to develop. It's like college or professional sports now, right? Like with the NFL, with the CBA, the teams are not allowed to practice as much. Okay, so how do they still refine the playbook and grow as a team when they're not allowed to do that anymore? That's a challenge, but I think as an assistant professional or someone getting into the industry, finding a way to reach out to your boss. Hey, what can I do to be better? How can I shadow you? Can I, on my day off, just like follow you around and just be a fly on the wall? Can I attend your board meeting that you go to and just sit in the corner and not say a word? Sure. Can I do a site visit? We've been doing that more and more with our team here. Like, hey, I'm going to hook you up with a golf professional in Chicago, and you're going to go there and you're going to just tour the place, back of the house, front of the house, member experience, guest experience, grab a bite to eat for lunch, maybe play golf. What are they doing? Like, what are they doing well that we could do right away? And also, what are they doing that's really crummy that we can be validated that, like, wow, this club is like top 100 and they can't even do this and we're doing this every day? That's kind of rewarding at the same time, right? So it's not about like, um, get out the textbook and like check things off the list. It's about like just continually learning. That's all it is. Continually learning and not being afraid to try something. And if it doesn't work, scrap it.
Very good. Yeah, I like that a lot. Um, so I asked you to come on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, and you're like, well, I don't teach much golf. I don't know what kind of value I'm going to provide for people, right? Um, and one of the things that I would say, learning to play golf, running operations, it's all very similar, right? You look at it from different perspectives, but at the end of the day, regardless of what it is that you're trying to do, likely what you want to do is focus on gaining knowledge. That's number one. Two, focus on the things within your control, right? Focus on, I and every golf pro who's teaching golf lessons out there understands fundamentals. Running an operation is no different. You're running on your fundamentals, and if your fundamentals are strong in your golf operation, now you have time to put out your fires that are could turn into something, but because now people know where they're supposed to be, people know what they're doing. We have good new fun ideas coming in. It keeps you motivated to continue to learn because things aren't getting stagnant. So everything that we do, it all comes down to the same thing, and that's increasing your knowledge and staying motivated to continue to increase your knowledge, and then putting these things into practice. Knowledge does nothing without practice, and I just think that you can infer all kinds of things out of the conversation that we just had. And whether you're running operations or learning to play golf, what you brought to the table today was really great. And I'm very grateful that you decided to be on the podcast today.
I'm happy that I finally got the invitation.
Absolutely. Well, I had to get some practice under my belt a little bit. I wasn't
Right.
gonna, right? I waste these questions on these guys so that I have the good ones for Vince. See, that's how it works. Um, But again, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yeah.
And
Merry Christmas to you. Can I leave you one inspiring quote for the podcast, especially if there's any assistant professional out there that listens to this?
I'd love to hear it.
I'll leave you with one. I just heard this the other day. Pressure to me is a privilege because that means someone expects something positive from you. And so
Very good.
remember when you're 11th hour and you got to get something done, there's pressure out there. It's pressure, and you should feel good about it because it means someone's expecting something from you.
That's a nice quote. I'll make sure to we'll use that and plaster it all over the place. That was very good.
Perfect.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Who do
Of
you know
course,
who said
Mike.
that? Did you say that?
Yeah, no, I did not say it. And I only you're gonna laugh that my failing Chicago Bears head football coach Thomas Brown said that in his opening press conference. That's
There you go.
not working so well, but I thought that was a good quote anyway.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
That's
We got a
right.
good quarterback now, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. Hmm.
But
Mike, thank
thank
you.
thank you, sir.
Of course.